Well, we know who the donor was for the $130 million gift to the U.S. government, to the executive branch, to pay 1/3 of the military's paychecks, which is illegal and unconstitutional. We at least know who the donor was. It's Timothy Mellon. He's a MAGA donor to the MAGA PACs for Donald Trump. Spent lots of money. In 1 month, he gave 90% of all MAGA PAC collections came from Timothy Mellon. He's an heir to the famous Mellon banking fortune. His grandfather, Andrew Mellon, was a Treasury Secretary during the 1920s, huge supporter of Donald Trump. But his $130 million quote-unquote gift, while it's arguable whether the government could receive the gift, it can't spend the gift. It can't open up and fund a checking account to pay out to the military, because that violates the Appropriations Act, the spending clause of the Constitution, the Anti-Deficit Act, and lots of other things. Donald Trump can't fund his executive branch by taking in donations to do an end run around the power of the purse that's held by Congress. Now, he's doing all this during the shutdown, of course, because there is no Congress, because MAGA Mike Johnson has effectively turned off the lights. If you thought that Congress run by MAGA Mike Johnson was a doormat, barely a doormat, at least a doormat gets some level of attention from the feet that are being wiped on it. Donald Trump doesn't pay any attention to it whatsoever. If you thought that was a doormat for Donald Trump or a lapdog for Donald Trump before, what do you think's going on now as we enter day 30 of the shutdown? He's barely keeping the lights on. It had no power before, and now it's out of business for all intents and purposes. And look what happens when the cat's away, the mice are playing, and they're playing with gifted money and violating the law. I'm here on Saturday with you on Legal AF. Let's get to the $130 million. A lot of people's noses scrunched up and said, "Oh, Buck, is that allowed? Can you just fund your own government without Congress?" The answer to that is no. I'm glad you're here. Take a minute and hit the free subscribe button here on Legal AF. We need it now more than ever. Everyone's been talking about the ballroom and the desecration of the White House by this president. That's another story which I could tie in. That $300 million boondoggle. Also a violation of the many of the same things I'm talking about now. All of a sudden, in the last 24, 48 hours, we heard about a $130 million gift, anonymous gift to the government. Not taxes paid, a gift. That it was going to be used for the military to pay their paychecks. Covers about 1/3 of their paychecks so far. And I'm thinking, maybe it was a loan. Maybe it's going to be paid back once funding reopens and the government reopens in some amount of time. No, this was a gift, and now it's been disclosed who it is. A friend of Donald Trump's, of course, Timothy Mellon, who's donated hundreds of millions of dollars to Donald Trump's political action committees in the past. In fact, in some months, in some quarters, he was 90% of the donations. So I'm not surprised that it is Timothy Mellon stepping forward again, Nepo baby, first generation Nepo baby of the Mellon banking fortune.
America, this is Elder G again. You see how that con is working, right? President Trump and Mike Johnson, in the House and the Senate, and the Supreme Court, they all in cahoots together. So Donald Trump is getting all this illegal money that fund his little pet project so he can bypass Congress. So he can destroy black and brown people's lives. One donor won't want to pay a third of the military budget with $130 million. That's illegal. That our federal government is taken under the table because they're trying to destroy the freedom for the black and the brown people. That's evil. That's the stuff right there that start wars. No matter how much money they spend, or how much money those prejudiced white people give, that's still not going to change the fact that the black and the brown people is 90% of the U.S. population. And the prejudiced white people on a whole, but the prejudiced white people is only going to be about 4 or 5% of the American population. No matter how much money they spend, no matter how many ballrooms they spend, no matter how many planes they donate, they can't overrule God. They can't stop God from delivering his people from bondage. God with us. God is guiding us. No amount of money. They ain't reading the Bible because they know that you can't serve God and money. They already know that. But the devil is going to go to and fro, trying to see who he may devour. It's our time, American people. If you don't stand up and fight now, you're going to lose your freedom. You're going to lose your rights. You're going to lose your freedom to speak. You're going to lose your freedom to bear arms. You're going to lose your right to petition the government. The Donald Trump government is the most evilest government that the United States have ever had. Donald Trump and his minions must be stopped. And we need to do it in a godly manner, but we need to do it. Thank you.